Do you know that China negotiated for themselves tariffs that are as low as 10%? This is not well put out by the media, the Western media, or maybe any other media, but it's something to look into. So today I'm going to explain exactly how the tariffs were raised, how they peaked, and how they have been reduced. Hi everyone, welcome back to Her Voice. Prior to all this tariff war, before any conflict, before any escalation, the US charged China 2%, about 3% on Chinese goods, while China charged the US about 8% for US goods. This was in the era where it was normal. The World Trade Organization actually accepted those types of tariffs. But then it escalated over the last decade or so. During the first Trump administration, tariffs were increased to 20% for Chinese goods, and China was charging about 22% for American goods. This stayed in place for some time. Even during the Biden administration, tariffs were targeted on the specific sectors, such as the 100% ban on EV cars and so on. But during the second Trump term, what we know as Liberation Day, that's when the pressure mounted. The US came out with a formula that nobody understood, and they put tariffs on the whole world. They made out statements as they are going to negotiate 90 deals in 90 days. As of now, I don't know how many deals they've made, but it is not 90. Two countries, actually, I'll say two countries on one continent, Canada and China, resist those tariffs and call them illegal. To date, Canada and the US have not come up with any tariffs. They have no deal. Even the framework, they do not have it. Why? China has managed their tariffs as low as 10%. India was hit badly. I think India has about 50% of tariffs put on them. And the whole continent of Africa did not bother to negotiate anything. I know South Africa went to the US to do something and it was a fiasco. But the whole country of Africa, the whole continent of Africa was like, you can do whatever you want to do. Now, let's look at China, because that is the industrial power of the world, whether you like it or not. They produce goods that go around the whole world, and they are a big trading partner with the US. When liberation tariffs started, China was given 34% added tariffs on them. So it means their tariffs had an additional 34% to it. Then China retaliated, and then it became something else until the tariffs had gone up to 100% in a way that both countries no longer do business together. Once your tariffs are even way more than 60%, it's difficult for people to do business with you. As of April, I know both combined tariffs, past and recent, were about 165% for the US and about 130% for China. Throughout that period after April, they started negotiating because that was out of place. You really can't do business with anyone who has those kind of tariffs. So they started negotiating. SM to chase down Chinese diplomats in Sweden. And they came up with a framework and things like that. Then the economy was stable. As of November, when the US and China finally met, there were a lot of tensions. This one was punching, this one was punching. America refused to sell to China the high-quality chips. China refused to buy soya beans from farmers. China blocked rare earth. As we all know, rare earth materials are not rare. What is rare is the processing of those materials. Chinese ships were being taxed all over by American, and China retaliated by putting sanctions also on American ships docking on their port. So it was like each person was actually giving out like, I'm the bigger person. No, I'm the bigger person. But then they met together, both presidents came together. They sat, they had some conversations, which I don't know what went on. But what came out of it has been twisted by the American media to make us see if China actually has 47% tariffs put on them from Liberation Day, which is actually not correct. So the president of the US announced that out of the 20% of tariffs put on China for fentanyl, 10% was reduced. I went to the website of the US just to, out of curiosity, to look at what was being said, because when you look at China media, what they are saying doesn't match what the US is saying. So there's a disconnect, and I'm like, what is going on here? That is when I noticed this was put on the website of the US, and I'm more interested in the American actions. So it says that the United States will lower the tariffs on Chinese imports imposed to curb fentanyl flow by removing 10% points of the cumulative rate effectively November 10, 2025, and will remain in suspension of the heightened reciprocal tariffs on Chinese imports to November 10, 2026. The fentanyl tariffs were 20%. They have been reduced to 10. Okay, that is straightforward. The United States will further extend the expiration date of certain sections 301 tariffs exclusion current due to expire on November 29, 2025 to November 10, 2026. And I'm wondering, what is certain sections 301 tariffs exclusion? Nobody is trying to explain what Section 301 tariffs are. Do you know all those tariffs that were added on top of when Liberation Day started and the tariffs were 34%? When China responded with their own tariffs and those tariffs kept on adding, those are the reciprocal tariffs that have been frozen for a year. Nobody is explaining that to us. Then it goes on to say the US will suspend for 1 year starting on November 10 implementations of the responsive action take pursuant to the Section 301 investigation on Chinese targeting the marine, logistic, and shipbuilding sector for dominance in the maritime. It actually means that the US has frozen it. They have stopped it for a year. So now I'm wondering, why are people acting as if the 47% tariffs include the 20% tariffs that already existed? So if you look at this graph, we have pre-2025, we have both tariffs on each other were about in the 20s and the 22s. Liberation Day tariffs came new, it went up. Then throughout that time, each person was just putting tariffs until it was unbearable. Then come November, the tariffs are down significantly. And if you look at the graph, it shows that the 47% tariffs also includes the 20% tariffs that were already put on Chinese goods. It means that China has actually negotiated itself reciprocal tariffs of about 10%. I will say this because it's found on the US website. You can look at this. They say the reciprocal tariffs are about 10%. Fentanyl tariffs are 10%. Fentanyl tariffs are different from reciprocal tariffs. So it means China actually has the better deal out of the whole world, like out of everybody. The additional tariffs on China is 10%. I thought they were not allies because India is an ally to the US, but India has been hit with almost 50% tariff. Nobody's making any statement. I don't know if the tariffs are coming into effect or not. But here we are, China, who they say it's not their partner. They want to decouple from China, but then they are embracing China and giving China just 10% tariffs. I think Britain has 10% tariffs. The European Union has 15% tariffs. It means China is more of an ally to the US than the European. But nobody's talking about this. The media is not reporting this. But I am reporting this because it's something we have to look into. Europe has been forced to sacrifice its future to decouple from China. Why America is not decoupling from China? That is the truth. Are the Europeans stupid or what? I don't know. But it's something for each and every person to go on the website. It's called the fun fact sheets, the White House fun sheet or something. Just go there and educate yourself. It is said that Africans don't read, but I think it is, I would say, some people don't understand. Because if you go to the MAGA world, they are celebrating, oh, 47% we dealt with China. Did you? No. Okay, what was China supposed to? China was supposed to buy soya beans. Before the negotiation, China bought soya bean from the US. It means it's not even part of that deal. That's no win. They dealt with you front, like I really don't know how to explain this. Now China is going to allow rare earth flow into the US. It's good. America needs it to create weapons. But China is still going to monitor the rare earth so that America doesn't create weapons that is going to be used against China. That is where the technicality comes. And nobody is looking at it. Are they providing the high grade rare earth to American military? Who knows? When it comes to politics and trade and everything around the globe, we need to take each party, each other's word with a grain of salt. And then we dive into what they have actually written. Because I'll say this, the world has become so lazy that people don't read, that people don't want to go to school, people don't want to educate themselves. They just want to watch TV, and whatever you digest and give them, they accept. What I'll say is this, who do you think is winning this trade war? Why is America not decoupling completely from China, but they're asking their allies and friends, especially Europe, to decouple from China? Anyway, thank you for watching Her Voice, and you have yourself a great day.